Good morning. I'm Egbert Knol and I work in the Netherlands for a company called Topigs Norsvin. And actually it's Topigs Norsvin International, which is a combination of two cooperatives, a Norwegian one and a Dutch one. And together they operate a breeding program in pigs. I think that the feed gene exactly covers what pig production is about. It is about the transfer of plant protein into animal protein, and that's highly, highly relevant. So that whole process, we need to have that whole process under control. And then if I look at the international partners, I love the partners. Having the INRA, Wageningen University, the English side of the equation, it brings together all the qualities we need in a project like this. Well, we try to get the expertise from all around the world, and if possible and relevant, we participate in European projects. So, yeah, but also in other projects. There's a project called Local Pork, which is funded by the Dutch, the Ministry of Foreign Affairs, which is between the Netherlands and Brazil. And that is quite relevant because we do genetic improvement to sell, among others, in Brazil or the Philippines or whatever. So we need to know the local environment. So that type of project, it fits the industry needs, I think. Our strong point is genetic improvement. I think we understand the genetics quite nicely. But in the end, our clients have to work with it. So gradually we change animals, we hope for the good, but we change the animals. And then gradually the feeding needs to adapt to the animals, or the other way around. If there's a fixed feed, we have to change animals so that they fit the feed. So modeling of nutritional needs is very relevant. So INRA pork is very relevant in the world, I think. So if it is, we could use that as a tool between genetics and feed, it would work out quite nicely. So having INRA as partner is very relevant for us. And an interesting phenomenon is that 2 years ago, I asked in a session at the EAAP, it was in Ireland or something, if there is an INRA poultry model too. There isn't. But then Jaap van Mulgen, he said, a chicken should fit in the INRA pork. Oh, I would love that type of abstraction, huh? that you can fit growing animals in a single model, because that will bring us to a higher level of understanding. So since 5 years or something, the people in Wageningen have been asking me if I want to participate in microbiome the research, because it's highly relevant for the immune system. So I always refused, not because the immune system is irrelevant, but I have very few parameters with which I can test whether the microbiome is relevant or not. And then 2 or 3 years ago, we hired Lisanne Verschuren. And her main subject is pen performance. So it's not only the genetics of an individual animal, but it's also the interaction between the animals. It's also the disease pressure, and it's also the microbiome in the animals. And at that moment in time, we had no clue about it. So I said, okay, if you do your first paper on the microbiome, and if it explains 2% or less of the variation in feed efficiency, then we just skip it, we leave it. And if it is more than 10%, then I'll try to find funds in the company so that we can really move into the area. Current estimates are that 30 to 40% of the variation in the feed efficiency is related to the microbiome. It doesn't mean that we immediately have a grip on it, but that it's relevant is very clear. So if it's relevant for the feed efficiency, I know it's relevant for the immune system, so I think it's worthwhile to invest in. We see it as our task not only to sell animals, but also help farmers to get the most out of it. So feeding manuals, feeding advice is very relevant. So what I hope is that we can find a platform that if I plug in genetic improvement, an almost immediate output would be improved feeding the manuals. So if we change protein deposition rate of animals, then first year not too much happened, but after 2 or 3 years it's better to adapt. Weight curve development, gradually sows are getting heavier and heavier because of the selection for growth rate. Maintenance is highly relevant, so I want to keep the adult weight under control. So weight development, translation of weight development into feeding advice is highly relevant. And then we have these disturbing factors like disease, so perturbations. We have the microbiome, which pre-digests the fiber, so that there's more energy. So the main product would be a simulation model so that I can provide the feeding manuals. So stuff like the perturbation model, I didn't think about it, but it's highly relevant. So that's a bonus. That we might get broilers and finisher pigs in the same or similar model is highly valuable for me. Because we do genome-wide association studies, we try to find genes which are relevant for meat production. So if the chicken people do the same and the basic logic is similar, then we might be able to use that information together and get an extra step. A couple of years ago, we participated in a project seeking sociable swine. And those were the animal production PhDs and one social sciences PhD. And the social sciences PhD, she observed the process of doing research together. And she said, well, what I see, that everybody is so keen and so happy to participate. So for 2 years, you bury yourself in your own work. And then after 2 years, you start talking to the others. And it's like, why didn't you tell me before? So it's the cocooning, and we have to try to get out of the cocooning. So nutritionists should work for a couple of weeks at the genetics company and the other way around. Going to farmers and seeing the problems in nutrition and how you solve nutritional the problems. And if you do that in an early stage, you start to understand each other better, and then the whole thing is more efficient. Efficiency is at the core of what all of us want to realize. So what we try to do is to look at feed and look at pigs and how can you combine them. And one of the things in the middle is this microbiome. So the microbiome can help to digest what pigs cannot. But at the same time, they might use some of the nutrients. The second thing is precision feeding. If you're a farmer, then you get 1,000 pigs in your barn and they're all copies of each other, Well, in your mind. It's not. They are genetically different. For a nutritionist, they're the same. Well, it makes sense. But if you could pre-group them and say, well, these are the high potentials and these are, we might better eat them immediately. And then you can change the feeding. So I think as an industry, we can be way more protein efficient and energy efficient. So currently the feed efficiency is only, I don't know if you realize that, but it is only based on energy. Yeah, so we feed animals on energy and we put enough protein so that they can survive, and enough phosphorus or whatever. So we could change the definition a bit and say protein efficiency is way more relevant. And then I think the ranking between farms and between animals starts to change a bit. So if you realize that, then feed companies and producers organizations and feed companies, they become relevant. So your communication should focus on nutritionists and on genetics, I think, to realize that together we have to do the job.